So, oh, and Adam, do you want
Yes.
is it Adam or Motion Worker for that? It's Motion Worker for the album.
Yeah, it's both. I mean,
Okay.
it's fine. I'm not, yes, I'm not gonna get like, I'm not Fatboy Slim or Moby. I'm also Adam Dorn. Yeah, there,
Okay.
but yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
either one.
So, welcome. So, a special interview we have here today on WGDR. I want to say in the studio, but it's really in the Zoom. I have Motion Worker, aka Adam Dorn, and Joe Alterman, two fabulous gentlemen have just released a really wonderful record. A record that's dedicated to one of the greats who is also, it seems like, fairly close to you guys and your family, a
Mm.
piano player named Les McCann. Record's called Keep the Line Open. And it's
Mm.
a really special record to me because I've taken a deep dive into Les McCann records, as well as a deep dive into Atlantic Records, Adam, that your dad, Joel Dorn,
Mm.
produced. A
Yeah,
name that everybody should know with a really wonderful backstory, which we may get into or may not. But I want to talk more
sure.
about the record that you guys made. And it's a really unique record because it's a Les McCann record, but you guys made it. And it
Mm.
sounds like what the way I understand it is that you are so inspired by Les McCann as a musician as well as a person.
Yeah.
And you got inspired to make a Les McCann sounding record with samples and but like somehow creating his vibe.
Mm.
And I was just thinking that's a really unique thing. That's not like a common idea. You usually either have the artist original artist or you have a cover band
Mm.
basically or you take samples from one thing or another, but I've never heard of a record where it's like, you know what we want to do? We want to recreate the vibe. We want to
Right.
recreate the vibe of this musician, which feels a little different than a tribute cover record.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I guess I just want to kind of open it up to you guys. How did this come about?
I'll start. Yeah. So basically, so I'm from Atlanta and I lived in New York for about 10 years. And I met Les. I opened for him one night at the Blue Note, and I was obsessed with his music and like still am. But
Were you
uh,
obsessed before you opened for him? You like knew who he was.
oh yeah.
So
Oh,
was that crazy to be opening for Les McCann?
oh my gosh. Yeah. And I mean, at that point, I was like only listening to Les. I was in jazz school and I was often being told like, it was very heady stuff we were learning, which was cool, but we didn't talk about feeling. And Les was
Mm.
all about feeling. So listening to him was like this refreshing thing during that time. And yeah, I was just obsessed with him. And I remember sitting in the club before he came in and, thinking, oh my God, about to meet my hero, whatever. It was so
Mhm.
exciting. And he entered the club. I was sound checking when he came in and he was in a wheelchair. They wheeled him up to the stage and he didn't say hello. He said, play me some blues, boy, like really intimidating. I was like, oh shit. and I did my best, but I was a little nervous, of course. And after a few minutes, he said, "Amen." So I was doing something okay. Then he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Joe Alterman." He said, "Alterman, are you a rabbi?" And I was like, "No, I'm." I was trying to think what to say. He said, "Well, are you a Hebrew?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, from now on, you're my Hebrew." And that was it. He called me the next day, and we talked like every day for basically the next 12 years until he
Wow.
passed away. We had the most special thing. I'll go pull up my closet. I have well, this is a painting of his. I have so much
Oh
beautiful
wow.
things of his that he shared. I have an autographed diaper just over there that he mailed me from his hospital. but
That says, I
but
mean, that captures a lot of his spirit.
Yeah.
he was like the most to me. I feel like he was like the most wise man I ever met, and also the silliest, which is great. It's like um he was like he was like a little kid and who had like that childlike wonder that never left him, I guess. But when
Hmm.
we would talk, he would often talk about Adam's dad and Adam to me. And I Adam and I, we didn't meet until we both were kind of sad about Les
Yeah.
dying,
So
that we
you
were
guys
both
Yeah.
didn't
kind
meet
of
until after he passed away.
Exactly.
totally.
Wow.
I
Okay.
similar to Joe. I had heard of Joe. I started following Joe on Instagram, which means like nothing. We're not friends. We just like, know each other virtually. And when Les passed, I remember I learned about his passing not from Joe, but I think it was Marvin Smitty Smith put something up,
Mm.
and I was like, ah, this hard, such sad news. And one of the first people I sent a DM to, that wasn't like, Kevin Calibro or people that like were in that like sort of inner circle of knowing my dad and knowing Les and all that was Joe. And I was just like, hey, man, I know how close you guys were. I sent him a little note, and that just started a whole dialogue of like, you know, um, just how many funny stories that were there and how much love and how much connection. And I would see Joe post like incredible things and little tributes, and they had done, Mo and Joe, they had done, some music together, and
Mm.
I had just followed the Joe and Les relationship for a long time. And then it finally made sense to like, like, hey man, we lost like an uncle brother. You know what I mean? Like we
Mhm.
lost someone that really meant a lot to us. And coincidentally, when I reached out, Joe lives in Atlanta and I had a film at a film festival in Atlanta. And I was like, hey man, I'm going to be in Atlanta. Let's just hang and tell less stories. And we met up at this really nice restaurant and a bar. And you know that scenario where like the waiter keeps coming over and we're just, can do you want to order? And we're like, oh, sorry, we'll look at the menu. We sat down and it was like, so I started right in like, so when I was 17, I played with it
Mm.
was less.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
Adam, could you say a little bit more? Like Joe talked about sort of his first
sure.
question. Can you say a little bit more about Les McCann in your life?
Les McCann in my life is really simple. My father produced a bunch of Les McCann albums.
Hmm.
But beyond that, when my father was at Atlantic Records in the, 65 to 75, 60, mid late 60s. So Les McCann was someone that was a very dear friend, of the family.
Hmm.
I mean, before I was born, I was born,
Mm.
I'm
Mhm.
born in 70. Hey, I'm born in 70 and Les is firmly in the life of, my kin. And throughout the years as a child, my father would be at home. He used to be in Philly on the weekends and producing records in New York during the week. And Les McCann would call over. He would call, and Joe knows, like he would call like 6 times a day, and then my dad and Les would they'd watch a basketball game together. Like I got to know Les, like I knew Les like family, like equal to an uncle. Like by the time I was 12 or 13, it was just like Uncle Les. Like he's someone I would talk to him on the phone all the time. Never met him because he was in LA and we were on
Mm.
the East Coast. But fast forward, I start playing bass, right? And I'm starting to work a lot like in New York and like getting to know folks and the group of people that I'm around are like, listen, you're good. You
And
need to
how
go.
how how
Yeah.
old were you at this time, Adam? Like,
16, 17, I moved to New
wow.
York.
Okay.
And,
You and your dad got in there young, man.
yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely followed that script.
Yeah.
Um, and, just to speed it up, like I ended up, because I had this peer group of musicians I was working with, I was good. I wasn't great. So they were like, you need to get around your peers, go to school, go to a school for a little while. So I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston
Hmm.
and, for like 3 semesters. And while I was there, I get this phone call from Les one time, and he goes, "Adam, your dad says you're the the MFer. You're the guy." And I was like, "Hey, I said, "Yeah, I'm playing. I'm doing my best." And he goes, "Put a band together for me. I'm coming to Boston. We're playing together."
Put a
And
band together for Les McCann. Just throw it
yeah,
together for Les McCann. Yeah.
he came. He had like I think it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday run at a jazz club there. And I put a band together. He brought a tenor player, great tenor player named Keith Anderson, who I ended up being in Marcus Miller's band with. So,
Mm.
like it's like a real tenor player. And and he just walks in similar to Joe. I've never really made he walks into sound check at this club. We're all kids. We're gonna play with Les McCann. We all know who he is, and we're all like, oh my God, and Adam brought us to play with Les McCann. And he's like, and he just goes, let's play Cold Duck Time. And we just like he didn't say hello. He gave me a hug. He started and he's like, let's play. And we just fell in, and we did like 4 incredible
Mm.
nights of music. And from then on, maybe not similar to Joe in terms of like constant communication, but like Les always stayed in touch with me, always wanted to know what was
Mm.
going on. I would do more gigs with him, but spot dates here and there. And when I started making my Motion Worker records, he fell in love. He was
Mm.
like, "What are you doing? How are you making these? I know you're sneaking stuff in there. What are you doing?" Like, and I have to say, out of everyone in the world of my childhood of personalities that I grew up with, that my father worked with, that I ended up working with, he was the most always curious, always fascinated with technology. Joe, like synths and samplers and always checking out new stuff. He was so supportive. As a matter of fact, I have a record called Enter the Mowo that I have a tune called That's What's Happening Tonight, and I sampled Les introducing uh he had a tune when Les would pick up a woman in a city.
Mhm.
He would play a tune and say that was called Blues for Beverly. And that's what's happening tonight. And I put that's what's happening tonight on this tune. And I sent it to him. I said, I sampled you, man. I don't know who owns the master. He's like, I don't care. Use it. I love it. And it got used for some commercials. And that's what's happening tonight. And it was just like, so this bond with I mean, I think I did one of Les's last live gigs. I did New Year's Eve in 20, Joe, would it be like, when did he stop playing out? Like, I think I did New Year's Eve like 2013, 2014. I played with Les, you
Yeah,
know?
it could have been even later, honestly, maybe
Yeah.
14 or 15. But yeah, around
Yeah.
then.
I did,
Yeah.
I mean, Les was someone I talked to and stayed in touch with and would visit. I had him on a podcast that I had. Like, he was family. Like,
Mm.
and he would, like he said, "Are you my Hebrew?" He said something to me one day. We were having a conversation on the phone, and he said something like that. And I think he was really sensitive. He was a very loving guy. I think he thought he insulted me, like I didn't understand the joke,
Mm,
and I wasn't mad, and I didn't hear from him for like 5 months. And
Mm.
I finally
mm.
called him. And he's like, "Man, I thought I was really rude to you. I'm sorry." I was like, What are you talking about?"
Oh,
I said, "What did you say?" I said, I just wondered why I hadn't heard from you.
yeah.
Like, so just Joe and I get together, and this is just like 12 years on Joe's side, 35 years on my side, if not
Mm.
more, of just knowing and loving this person. And we get together in Atlanta. And the catalyst to this album, to keep the line open, was I saw Joe played at a performing arts center with a great trio that he has down there. And I brought some friends of mine from this film festival, guys that I'd scored this film with. And we were just all blown away. And after the gig, I was like, man, and I always say this, and Joe's probably sick of hearing this. In that typical like LA kind of style, I was like, we got to do a record together. I was like, and I was really amped up. I was like, wow, it's so refreshing to hear this kind of music played right now. And there were like 400 people at this concert, and Joe's show goes up and down. But when it was like cooking in that Les mode, I don't want to say that Les mode, but that 60s soul jazz
Mm-hmm.
feeling
Mm.
music. Not
Mm-hmm.
this, not this,
Mm-hmm.
this. When it was in that mode, I
Mm.
was like, man, I think we can do something. And I just, after the thing, I met his parents. Oh, very nice to meet you. And I met the bass player, a lovely guy. And I was like, we're making a record. We're making a record. And I went home, and within 2 weeks, I'm sending him little grooves, and like, you could take it from there, man. I just was like, yo, we're doing this. And Joe was like, what? Yeah, just started sending stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and we did everything over the line, I guess. Over
Yeah.
the
The line was open.
Yeah,
yes.
it was over the phone, and I would write these grooves, and Joe would solo over them and do little melodic things and trust me to like piece it together.
Mhm.
But from very early on, when the groove thing and the feeling thing started coming together, I started to mess around with this thought of like, I'm just gonna put an audience in here. Let's make a 60s record. Let's
Mm-hmm.
make it from that era. This is what we love so much about Les and Eddie and Ramsey and Ahmad. Like, let's make a record that's a love letter to not only Les, but to an entire era that is so being
Yeah.
not even remembered anymore. Like
Yeah.
I think of who the hippest guys are now, and I'm like, no one makes a nod to any of this.
Yeah. The records, I love that because I have a lot of your dad's records. I have a lot of, Jimmy McGriff, all sorts of stuff from
Yeah.
like the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
And there's like the live records, especially, you can feel the audience enjoying the music like viscerally. You can like
Yeah.
feel the audience in the room. You could feel the interplay, especially with like the side chats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can feel the engagement with the audience, but you can really feel yourself in there. And that was
Yeah.
one of the things that I felt when I put Keep the Line Open. I got the vinyl. I think I probably got one of the first vinyls because I pre-ordered it like 3 months before it came out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I
It,
put it
it
on
wasn't
and
made yet. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
put exactly. I was like, I'm not sure this record's actually going to happen,
Yeah.
but I put it on and turned it up, and I have a good enough sound system at home that I felt like I was in
Yeah.
the room. Like I was in
Yeah.
the room with you guys, but I was in the room with like, couple dozen other people sitting at tables, in the dark drinking, but feeling the groove in this group, like in this sort of collective thing, which just felt so special because I
Man.
feel that. And I was reading the liner notes as I was listening, and you guys you have all these wonderful pictures of Les McCann in there,
Yeah.
and telling these stories. Like it was so immersive. It was just this immersive experience. And I've loved Les McCann for a long time. And so
Yeah.
to be able to hear you guys just taking that and making it
Yeah.
into a real full experience was wonderful. I felt like I was in like the world's best music museum.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and
love that.
that's the ultimate compliment because honestly, there was a part of this, not real long, but there was a part of this where I was like, you know, I it could be a contrived tool to kind of use that as a, the audience. And by the way, the audiences, I won't even tell you, those audiences are iconic audiences too. They're audiences from things that have
That's so cool.
moved us, so they have that energy.
Right.
And I've always had this thing with the way that I like program and use, like I'll sample the intro to a record before the notes even play, so you get the air from the studio. And that becomes, you know what I mean? There are all these subliminal things. But I gotta tell you, Benj, man, I gotta say, that's like the ultimate compliment for us, because if you love Les as much as you do, and this didn't like annoy you or feel contrived, that's the ultimate compliment. Thank you.
Exactly. I mean, and I was wondering about that. Like what you're describing, I was sort of like, why am I going to listen to this?
Right.
Not just put on a Les McCann record. Like, why am I not going to put on one of his records, with Eddie Harris or whatever? Like,
Right.
and that happens to me a lot. Like, I'll listen to new hip hop. I'm like, yeah, this is all right. I'm going to go listen to Big Daddy Kane. Like, this is just inspiring to listen to the OG. Right.
Yeah.
And I love that because I can imagine apprehension.
Yeah. Wait a minute. You said Big Daddy Kane. Do I literally have to say I'm driving Benz 190 2.0 and you know where to find, like, that's my era. I'm sorry. Anyway, I sorry, I digress.
No.
But I just think that, there's something to be said in this particular era and this particular space and time that, like, you can make like this is a little record in an ocean of AI music, in an ocean of like extremely moneyed interest, making sure the bandwidth is like this big, and when we had this idea to do this, it started extending beyond Les to like a love letter for this era thing. Joe, I'm going to go Herb Alpert.
Go there.
Between Joe and I, we have a pretty extensive list of people that we've met, through music. And we started to reach out to people about this kind of concept, and most of them really co-signed. And Herb Alpert was so mad at me. He was like, "You recreate Les McCann, and what are you doing?" And it was just like, and he just didn't even want to listen to the like, well, it's done with love, and it was, and I just remember Joe and I we just like, it's not so private, it's not so private anymore. I just love that Herb Alpert of all people, like, and I've worked with Herb, like, I literally, I'm not mad at him or anything, like, we're cool, but I was like, man, this is so much, this is mensch written all over it, and this is what you're getting mad at. It was, I just thought it was funny, like, of all the people, like, most folks are just like, boom, I love, Joe sounds amazing, and by the way, it's not a real piano on the record.
Okay.
It's not even, it's a model of the piano that Bill Evans played on Kind of Blue, which isn't even the right kind of sound for like a Les thing, but Joe, it's total testament to Joe's ability that he can play a sampled virtual instrument and make it sound like that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just, I'm sorry, man. We made a record with like wiffle ball bats and bubble gum. Like, you know, we just like, we did not, this is a hard lift, this kind of concept. I am so happy about your reaction, because I know how much of a music lover and a deep head that you are, like a digger. So I mean, I might be done talking. Like, that was like, I got what I needed, man.
I've got a few dozen more questions.
I don't want to monologue, but that's like, that's heavy. And like, sorry, Herb Alpert, you know, for anyone.
Yeah, we're gonna start some beef here.
Yes, that's a new East Coast West Coast jazz beef.
Kendrick Drake Part 2. Yeah. Joe, can you talk a little bit about like what drew you in and what it was like doing it? Like, what, you know, Adam talking about you using this other kind of keyboard. Like, I'm just curious about your feelings around your process with it and what Les meant to you.
Yeah, well, this was so fun for me. I mean, first of all, like, I've had a keyboard, and I'll bring a keyboard to gigs where I need to bring a keyboard, but usually I'm playing acoustic, you know, with an acoustic bass and acoustic drums. And but I love the funk thing, and I listened to that a lot. And honestly, Les was kind of, you know, he would say to me, like, he had his piano phase of his career, and then he got into the electronics, and he was like, I'm excited for that phase of your career. And so anyway, you know, Adam would just send me these amazing grooves to play on, and he'd say, like, you know, take 5 solos, send me all of them. And for me, it was just so cool. I mean, so much fun to be playing along with those grooves. And I mean, they were just like, first of all, one thing that I was like blown away with, what is still blown away with, was that it always felt like I was playing with a real drummer, like that was egging me on. Like, it didn't feel like I was playing with anything that was like you know, I mean, I played with, like, messed around with, like, you know, the Abersold play-alongs, and that has like real musicians on it, but this felt more real than that, you know. This was like inspiring, you know. And I just totally, like, I'd send him the solos. I mean, parts of those solos were awful sometimes, you know, but I just knew total trust in Adam to, like, take the best parts, and he would weave it together and create like a melody. Like, a lot of these songs, they have melodies that they were just parts of my solo. You know?
Yeah.
So
it's so
really
cool. It's so cool to hear you guys talk about it, because listening to the record, like, if I just listened to the record blindly, I would have no idea that was how you guys put it together. Like, again, it feels so live, and it feels so vibrant, and it doesn't. I've listened to a lot of sampled jazz. You know, I've listened to a lot of hip hop sample stuff, and some of it, they take the best grooves of all time, and it doesn't have the life. Like, there's a way that on this record, again, it doesn't sound like the record doesn't sound like the process you're describing. The record sounds like you guys were grooving with the band in a nightclub and were enjoying the F out of it. I'm realizing I'm on radio. And that it wasn't send this and send this back, like that. You know, it speaks a lot to your guys. It's not just kind of talent and ear, but to me also just like your love for Les McCann, your love for music. Like I know Adam from watching your Instagram and stuff, just like, and knowing that how deeply steeped your dad was in music, like the reverence for that time period. Like I've, hearing you talk about, the death of record labels and things like that, to like, to know that you're bringing so much reverence and love into this record album around a specific guy too. Like, I don't know. It's really, it feels so, I don't know what the right word is, like not unprecedented, but in some ways that, like, to make something, especially in this day and age, that's so historic in some way and yet so current at the same time.
It's weird. I never put this together, but in the other parts of my career, I work on a lot of documentaries, and I tell, I've gotten to compose the scores and the soundtracks for films about people that I love, like I love Les. And I think in a way, in a weird way, this record is kind of like, in an abstract form, it's like a documentary. Like Joe
totally
would be on the phone with Les, and Les would be like, Les knew he was recording phone calls, and he would, and it went on the vinyl, not the digital release, on the vinyl, which is like the sort of like the, the boutique, great version of the record. You get all these spoken word things from Les. You get stories from Les. You get these little snippets, and they're not always contextual. Sometimes it's like, what was he just talking about? And then it's gone, and the tune starts. So much of this is about the person and the vibe and the story and the relationships that each Joe and I had with him. It really does get like sort of, it's like a black and white photo of a real loving friendship and admiration and mentorship. That's the thing. That's the griot aspect of this, where it's like, he passed this stuff down to us, and he would always be in our ear about like, you got something to say. You got something to do. Do your work every day. Write something every day. Practice. If you're not going to practice, Joe has a great story. Joe, tell the non-practicing story about like how to write music.
Oh, yeah. When we first met, Les, he knew that I really idolized him and wanted to learn from him, and he told me, if the first task for me to do that was I needed to write a song a day for a month, but none of them could be at the piano. And I was kind of, what? And he said, you'll realize why. And eventually I did. But basically, and then he confirmed it, which is that if you sit down at the piano to write a song, subconsciously, your brain will say, what can my fingers do? And then the song will come from that. He says, but if you're not at the piano and you're just singing melodies that come to you, that's the real melody that's in your heart. And Les's whole thing to me was always like, there's too much music that's just about the brain. And he's like, you have to connect your heart and the brain. And like that was his first step to try to do that with me.
I love that. It's giving me sort of like an insight into like how I've been a radio DJ, which is I used to be like, I wasn't going to play anything that wasn't 1972 or 1971. Like it was straight up blaxploitation soundtrack-ish kind of stuff. And it's only recently that I've been really diving into so much soul R&B stuff from like the late 70s. I'm still mostly on my show playing like the late 60s, early 70s stuff, but there's some way I'm hearing it differently because I'm also listening to these other things, which I know I'm not a musician in terms of like writing music and stuff, but it's really touching me the way you're saying it. It's like, I've learned to like open up to so many different things that help me focus on what I want to express as a DJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of the inspiration to me around what I love so much around Les and like wanted to capture here was like, when Les would play, I mean, he would just, I've talked to people who would go see him back in the day and they would say, man, he played the whole set in the key of C. And I was happier than I've ever been. And he wasn't playing for the musicians in the audience. He would always, I would ask him things about, musicians that would say critical things about me. And he would always say, like, first of all, like, when you get the hate, that's a good thing. That means you're on to something. But he's like, you cannot listen to the musicians because the musicians are the ones who are going to ask to get on your guest list and to get your album for free. So you got to play for the people. And he's like, he was into the people, and, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Isn't one of his albums is Talk to the People, isn't it?
Talk to the People. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was big on that. But awesome. I mean, that all came out of growing up and hearing music in church. I mean, he said that that was what he liked about going to church was hearing music. And it just kind of, I think the phrase was reach out and touch, it just touched you. And that's what the music, had to do. He approached jazz like they would approach music in the church. Like, if it doesn't touch you, what's the point?
It's so amazing. It's so great.
And there's a part of his relationship with Eddie where, like, Eddie and Les had such different approaches.
Eddie Harris.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we're like, yeah, of course. Eddie.
I know we're like three guys talking in a room with all this background information, but
yeah, it's well, no. So, just a little background. Les and Eddie make a record called Swiss Movement that sells like 1 million copies. And now, two guys that had never really worked together before and didn't really know each other, but because they played this amazing set of music that, birthed a hit and compared to what, they now have this career linked together for like decades.
Right.
And Eddie is as deep into the music as a player as it gets. I mean, Eddie is like cutting sessions in Chicago, knowing every tune and every key ever written, inventing keys. You know what I mean? Like Eddie, and Les wasn't. And there was some oil and water there as a result, because Les would be like, "Hey, I'm playing from my heart, and you can."
Interesting.
You can like literally fillet any tenor player on the planet. You know what I mean? And Eddie would come at music so seriously and then not, and then take it. Oh, it was a really interesting relationship.
Did your dad bring them together? How did produce that record, right?
So, it was like, hey, you guys are both going to be in Switzerland, at Montreux. Why don't you do a set of music? And they just they kind of hunkered together earlier in the day before they played. And then that's what happened.
Yeah,
they recorded that, and it's phenomenal. But the thing about it that's kind of strange is like neither one of them ever really expected that would happen, and it changed the trajectory of their lives. I mean, it was like financially had real advantages, but also they're now locked to get together. And Les really came from feeling, and so did Eddie. But Eddie also could talk to you about Shostakovich and Stravinsky, and you know what I mean? Like, it was like a whole other thing, and it would sometimes be like I would hear stories, and Les would be like, "He's not really nice to me." You know what I mean? And it's really not. I would be like, "Eddie, that's Les McCann. Like, are you kidding me? Like, come on, But it's just amazing, like to make a record like this with someone like Les in mind, and to be so linked to someone like Les, and have that be the catalyst for this kind of like story, right? It's like the record is hopefully unfolds like a little like an audio kind of story that is like, well, who is this character? Who is this guy that we keep hearing sound bites from?
Right.
And I just love that it culminates, it ends with this just like, don't forget to love yourself. Like, don't, this thing of like, I hope you felt good about this, and I hope you feel good about you. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Like, you like I said earlier, like I would talk to him and he would think like maybe he insulted me, but like, I don't know. Every time I spoke to him, I just felt like something else was supported, and like, I was given confidence about something. Like, I went to his apartment one time towards the end of his life before he went into an assisted living place, and he was like, "Take all my cents." And I was like, "I can't take your cents." You know what I mean? I was like, I'm not, he's like, "You will do just take them. You'll do great stuff. And I was like, that's the kind of guy he was. He was just
Yeah.
like, take my stuff, man. You'll use it,
It feels so open-hearted, and also just from that open-hearted place, like so full of possibility. Like
Yeah.
Joe, you talking about your opening for Les McCann, and he like engages you. Like how many artists don't give an F or, don't care about the opening people?
Oh,
Right. Like,
yeah.
and he's like, who's the dude who's playing piano right now? And
he was like that with everyone.
That's really,
everywhere.
I mean, imagine that being how people are in the world. Like,
man,
if we could all just be more like a manatee, in a way, like, hey, who's this person? Like, there's so much richness to be gained from that kind of interaction. And it's, like Adam, I obviously didn't know your dad, and I project a lot onto what I imagine he was like. But there seems to be a quality, I guess I'm just curious about it from your perspective, that he did something similar. Like his albums were so interpersonal, they were so, and I just wonder about like him putting folks together, but like he just seems so also full of just possibilities, right?
Well,
He was how old? 16 when he started writing Atlantic to become a producer? Like
younger.
Yeah.
I have a framed response from Neswe Erdogan, one of the owners of Atlantic. Neswe wrote my father a letter. It was a reply rather, to a letter that he had written when my father was, I think, 14.
Wow.
It was in 1956. Oh, 57 is the letter. So he would, you still would have been 14. And, he started a correspondence with Atlantic because he was writing to Atlantic and telling them what songs Ray Charles should consider doing.
As a 14-year-old.
As like a 14, 15, 16,
Imagine, if we just all had the quality to not, I don't know, like there's somewhere just
that confidence.
14-year-old writes a letter to Atlantic. He just had such a big, I don't know what you would want to call it, just like a yes. Optimism that almost feels like, dude, aren't you being a little naive? But like, maybe not. Not at all,
He was in for a penny, in for a pound. He was wearing, in 1957, he was wearing Ray Charles glasses. Like he was like, and then God bless my grandfather. I never met my grandfather, but I love this about him. When my dad was 15, Ray Charles came to Philly and played somewhere outdoors. And, it's not like now where you would have no access. Like my father said to my grandfather, like, I want to go to this show that Ray Charles is playing. It's an outdoor thing. And my grandfather took him there. And my father went up to the band. Like he went up to Fathead. He went up to Hank. He became friends with Fathead, David Fathead Newman, the tenor player. When he was like 15, he bought him a hot dog and a soda.
Wow. And then he's like, dude, I'm going to be producing your records in a little while.
And 10 years later, he was producing his records. That's amazing. I think the testament, to, to connect it to this album is like, it's that, my father wasn't I'm a trained musician. I can play music. I can write music. I can read music. You know what I mean? Like I can write for an orchestra, whatever. My father was deaf in one ear, could not find 2 and 4 at gunpoint, and just knew he loved music. So by the time he gets to Atlantic to start producing records, his strongest asset is knowing songs, knowing tunes, knowing musicians, knowing who to put together to make the right thing happen.
Amen.
That is record production.
Amen.
So
I'm so into liner notes. Sorry to interrupt, but like reading the liner notes from your dad's records, it's like insane to think of the people.
Yeah.
Kind of cool knowing that he had a big hand in bringing in the different people.
That was
into it.
That was literally the reason why Les loved working with my father so much is he let him go in the studio and do what he wanted to do. And he provided the ingredients for this, whatever kind of insane set of ideas that Les would come up with. My father's like, I got you. What do you want to do?
That's cool.
Let's get this drummer. Let's get 2 machines and put them together. You have more tracks to work with than we'll figure that out. Like it's like setting up invitation to openness. You know what I mean? Like it's so like cool. This notion of like why would there be an impediment to getting an idea across? You know, you
Wow.
set the table, have the meal, you know? So
Well,
there's not a lot of that now.
Yeah. No,
There's not a lot
yeah.
that it's just there's not that era, you
It's set
know?
the table, see, like have the meal and see what happens next.
Yeah,
Even, right? It's like, yeah,
right,
it's
right.
interesting. I was just thinking, I do this other podcast with a buddy of mine called Old Heads, and we interview. We're kind of talking about how we were both in third grade together, me and this buddy of mine, Tom, like in
Nice.
1979, right? So like I remember getting on the bus and this girl going hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. I was like, what's that? You know, so like
mhm,
we started listening from the beginning. So we're old heads, so we're trying to get kind of
mm.
more of an understanding of that vibe. And we were able to get Jill Kniff, who's the lead bass player for Luscious Jackson.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and one of the things she said that feels like it connects is we're talking about like, what do you think of the music business today and like advice that you have for musicians? And she's, you know, because her whole thing was that she grew up in New York City and was out clubbing at the age of 13 or 14 with like Adam Yauch and like all these different
Yeah.
folks. And they were just going to Danceteria and going to CBGBs, and that there was a communal aspect to it all, right? So Beastie Boys started out as a punk band and then listened to hip hop, and there was no.
Right.
No, like you got to do this. And she said what her wish for young artists is that there would be some sense of a community, like a restaurant in town that a bunch of different musicians would frequent, and maybe they have a night where the musicians play. Like what you're describing just feels like that
Mhm.
heyday of it was so rich in your dad's world and so possible, and your dad kind of
Yeah.
made it happen in a way, and Les McCann made it happen in a way.
I mean,
Yeah.
he got his. I mean, tell the whole coffee house story. I mean, that was whole like that's Les wasn't had didn't had nothing happening. When he goes to L.A., what does he do in L.A., Joe?
Yeah, he called himself the king of the coffee houses. He literally didn't even have like a place to live. He just was,
Mm,
like I remember he told me he'd go to a club or a coffee house and say, "Can I play here?" And they say, "We can't afford it." He was like, "I bet you could. Like, let me sleep on the floor and I'll play." He would play like four
wow.
coffee houses a night. But honestly, like in talking to Les, because I like became like, I mean, like just love Les's music so much. Like Les would call me sometimes when he have a question about one of his records, and and what was funny was I'm obsessed
Love
with
that.
Les's piano playing, and so we would talk a lot about the Les McCann Limited, that group, and even that was cool. He didn't want to be called the Les McCann Trio. He liked how like in Canada something to do with postage was limited, and so it was
Oh,
the Les
okay.
McCann Limited. And but Les saw his piano playing records as like the music he made on the way to becoming Les McCann. And then
Yeah.
he was at the time, I mean, he had another guy who kind of produced some of his really late period records. But when Les would talk about like the music he was most proud of, it was always Adam's dad's
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
music. And it was always like that's when he was free to do what he wanted to do. And he really felt like he was, when he found the Fender Rhodes, like he's like, this is meant for
Yeah.
my voice.
That's so great. I mean,
Eh,
again,
Yeah.
the album, like the word freedom is just such a wonderful way to think about. Like that's what I felt when I put your record on. Like in
nice.
my room, there's just this it's not just freedom, but it's like you're both feel at home, but there's
Mhm.
also possibility and there's also communion. There's like connection and everyone's feeling the vibe in a
Nice.
Mhm.
way that feels like freedom and possibility, like just such wonder for
Well, I
that.
think
Wow. That's
I'm
heavy.
pre- yeah, I think that part of that I really appreciate, but we're not really, we're obviously paying tribute to this era and these guys, but like, this is how I play regardless,
Right.
and so what am I trying to say? I mean, I think, if I was really trying to play something that didn't come naturally to me,
Right.
you wouldn't feel that,
Right.
Right.
and Les would hate it. Les would love
Yeah.
this,
Well, that's part of
Yeah.
the freedom is that you get to
right,
do your thing.
Yeah.
right.
Like all like I think of your dad's records again, Adam, and they all have like a funk and a groove, but man, oh man, did they not sound the
Mhm.
same. You
No.
know,
Mm.
they're so oriented toward you kind of like know it's a Joel Dorn record, but maybe I only know because I've listened to so many of them. You wouldn't know.
Mm.
you wouldn't know
Right.
off the top of your head, oh, this is that Joel Dorn sound, because
Right.
even though it had this kind of maybe the funkiest white dude in the history of the world sound to
Right.
it, it
Yeah.
also just was like, this is Rahsaan Roland Kirk doing his thing.
Right.
Right. This is Rufus Harley doing his thing. Like there's just, it's just out there. So
Yeah. Well, because I think the things always became about the artist, and I mean, honestly, in this way, in a way, I kind of continue that because this record, it's a duo record, but this is Joe's record. Like this is I frame everything around what I think the centerpiece is, and that's Joe. You know what I mean? Like the whole, all of the ingredients, everything is like accoutrement to the melodies and the solos and the, even when it breaks down and he's not there, it's to set up you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's legit. I mean, that is like a record producer mindset, and that is the son of an actual record
Well, I was
producer
just
mindset.
thinking about that.
Yeah.
You're taking care, like you're taking care of Joe to give him give you your space, right?
But it's funny when I talk about the record too. It's like Adam said that, and I appreciate, of course. But when people are like, "Man, Joe, you sound so great," I'm like, "Well, you got to hear how Adam put this together." Like, that's what knocks me out.
Yeah. No,
we have a great thing.
That's the thing, and it is. It's a great thing, because at the epicenter, like at the center of it, is just trust. I have a lot of friends that have played with like a lot of great musicians, and like every time I kind of talk about the heart and soul of like being on a bandstand and playing, and that relationship between musicians and each other on it's like if you don't, like I don't know, Benj, if there's this video going around of like a jam session, and like this guy like blows it up and everyone's yelling at this guy because he wants to play this like Chick Corea tune, and like I don't know, it's going around. That's not, I'm not bringing that up to tell that story. I'm just saying, like, if you're playing and you don't care about each other, or you don't have respect or trust for each other, it's not going to be good. It's just like even if you're not friends, but when you're in that dynamic and you're on the bandstand and you're playing, you got a drummer, bass player, tenor player, like you got to, and that's why I love that Miles Davis Quinn, like, that 60s band with Herbie and Wayne and Ron Carter and Tony Williams, like they didn't even rehearse.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was just like, they start playing the tune. Okay, what? I have no idea where we are,
in fact,
I trust you.
In fact, they did not rehearse. Right? It wasn't like
purposely.
They just weren't rehearsing. They're like,
no,
that's antithetical to what we're doing.
Didn't Miles say that he wanted them to practice on the gig, kind of? It was don't prepare on the gig.
Right. And as a matter of fact, I think when he first put that group together, they were playing in the basement of his brownstone, and he was just listening on an intercom. He was like, I want to hear what these guys do. I don't need to go play with them. I want to hear what they're doing.
Wow.
And it's funny, the other day, Jason Marsalis, great drummer. He posted this thing from Plug Nickel gig. Did you see that post, Joe? It's like
that was wild. Like where they got lost apparently.
They are so lost on a tune. Yeah. and so it just cracked me up because I was like, they never rehearsed. It was always a high wire act, and there was nothing but trust and love and respect on that bandstand. They never rehearsed. This shit happened. Oh, sorry. This stuff happened all the time. And I think that, when you go to a music school, like Joe and I were talking about earlier, teachers would start talking about like that Live Miles stuff from the 60s. And if you knew, you were just like, they don't know what they're doing. So why are you trying to teach me this? Like, what they were, you don't have no idea. You know what I mean? So anyway, I wrote that comment real quick, Joe. I wrote that comment, and Nicholas Payton I said, Ron Carter was the anchor, and he said Ron hates that term, and I was like, well, I know Ron for 40 years. He never got mad at me. I'm like, what are you talking about? I love that the jazz police had to weigh in on me. Nicholas.
No, I just want to add real quick, if it's cool, is because we mentioned Miles. I think the two biggest influences on Les, I feel like, well, one was, so first I just want to add with like a lot of this work with your dad, Les told me that a lot of the idea of it came from going to a party that a guy who used to come and see Les as a little kid, Frank Zappa, threw. So Frank Zappa used to go see Les when he was playing acoustic piano, but then one day he threw a big party. And Les said he went to the party and he's handing out instruments as everyone came in. And he's not handing out like pianos, he's handing out like percussion instruments. And that party, it became, he turned the tapes on and it became Freak Out, that album.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Les just loved that. So that kind of inspired him to like get into like this, let's see what happens phase. Like, don't trust yourself. But he also told me a lot about how big Miles was in his life. And specifically, Les was always big. He was always talking to me about, you have to like love yourself. Les saw like life is like, you can either love things or fear things. Like there's no in between. It's like, if you hate something, you're really afraid of it. That was his thing. And he said,
wow.
He was like, man, he said one of the biggest things in his whole life happened when he was hanging in Boston one night, and he realized that Miles was playing at a club down the street. And he went, and Miles saw him and said, Les, come and play. And Les said, no, I can't. Like, Les was nervous. So he said, no. And Miles kind of like said something, I don't remember exactly, but, you know, kind of cussed him out a little bit on stage. But Les came back to the hotel and he told his friend, his friend asked, did you play with Miles? He said, no, I didn't. And his friend said, he's your favorite musician. How could you say no? Mm-hmm. And that's when Les realized he was living with fear.
Mm-hmm.
And like those two experiences like really put him on his, you know, on the path that we, you know, are talking about and I look up to. You know, it's so special
that you're continuing to walk on. I mean, which is part of this album.
Certainly
I do feel like I mean, I could talk to you guys for hours. My show's not that long, so we should probably kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
How, like, I presume you guys aren't sort of touring. I'm wondering about how you're getting the album out, or are you touring? Ooh, you just changed your facial expression.
I have.
We have a thing.
Yeah, we have a thing. So on February 22nd, we're going to do like a record release party in New York at a venue called Rizzoli, which is a famous bookstore downtown.
Yeah.
And because I'm me and Joe is so kind to let me be me, I just said, I'm going to put a band. I said, I'm going to put a band together and I'm just going to send out some music and we're going to approach this like Swiss movement. We're just going to, Joe knows the tunes. I know the tunes. So we put the following band together. I'm sure, Ben, you're going to know who these people are. We got Lenny White on drums, who's an old friend of mine.
Wow. Okay.
We got Lenny White. We got Stephen Bernstein on trumpet, who's like Bernstein, I mean, and I do you know Kochemea from the Daptone label, Cheme Gastelum?
I don't the name. I mean, I know Daptone stuff. I don't know that.
Yeah,
specifically.
I did a record with him. He made a solo record. He's become a really successful like soul kind of spiritual tenor sax player. And I'm just like, I haven't even sent the music out yet. It's not. I said 2 weeks before the gig, I'm going to send everyone the 6 or 7 tunes we're going to play, because the tunes can last. You know, we're going to do. You know, we're going to do one tune outside of the album, and everything else is just from the record.
Cool.
And I'm like, we know the tunes, so I'll start them off. They're all ostinatos, and here we go. Like, so yeah, I called Lenny. I had a gig in Philly. I had a wild gig in Philly about 6 weeks ago. Like, I was playing bass, and I called Lenny, and he was just like, I'm in. So I was just like, whoa, all right. Because he just like, I don't think he gets to do these kinds of gigs. You know what I mean? Like, so we're gonna, that is the gig that we're gonna do. We're gonna film it, and hopefully it creates something that makes people want to see more of it.
Cool.
You know?
Cool.
You know?
For sure.
But
That's
you know,
amazing.
and I want to add one other thing. You invoked Big Daddy Kane earlier, and I spit out some Cool Mo D, and I apologize. That was a Cool Mo D verse.
Okay, I was wondering. I didn't quite feel familiar. But I love Cool Mo D too.
Cool Mo D is very cool, and I dug that like a couple minutes after. I was like, wait a minute, that was Cool Mo D.
I'm sure all my fans are going to be like on the phone calling me.
Oh, I apologize, but big ups, Big Daddy Kane. I'm sorry.
Big
about
ups,
that.
Cool Mo D too.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry,
cool.
But yeah, I just like, you know, do you any other, like, I mean, I think we're hopefully going to do some gigs, but it's hard. It's hard to, you know, get venues to understand. You know, they hear a record like this, and ironically, it should be like, bring this to my club.
Of course.
And they don't think about it that way because
Yeah.
it's like, wait a minute, like
Yeah.
it just sounds like a live record. That means you could do this live,
Yeah. So February 22nd.
February 22nd.
All right, I'm clearing my calendar. I'm going to drive down for
Sweet.
sure.
Oh man.
Awesome.
I hope we have good weather. I hope we have better weather than right now. Yeah.
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 Cool. Well,
Man.
guys, thank you. Thank you for many things. Thank you for being
Yeah.
so open to talking. Thank you for making this record. Thank you for sharing your heart, not just with your music, but in this conversation as well. So,
Sure.
I don't know, so tender and so uplifting. And
Oh man.
I'm going to follow you guys on my show with a bunch of stuff. Les McCann,
man.
you, Joe, I'm going to
Thank you.
search out your records and might throw a little Motion Worker in there too. And I still have those Groove 32 records. So.
Oh man. Yeah, those are fun. Those are fun.
Man.
Awesome.
Hey, Ben,
you
I was
guys.
curious real quick. I have
Yeah.
a cousin in Montpelier that plays music. I was just curious if you know this guy named Louis Franco.
Oh yeah, of course.
You do? You know Louis? He's my
Oh,
first
yeah.
cousin. Yeah, we do.
Oh yeah. No,
way.
Yeah, not only do I live in this tiny town, I'm actually a therapist in this tiny town. So
Oh wow.
there's connections.
Really?
So
Wow,
yeah.
wow. Small world.
Yeah.
Patient client confidentiality.
I know Louis Franco is not one of my clients, but we're connected in that world in these other ways. So
That's amazing, man. Well, Ben.
That's right. He was a music therapist. Yeah.
right. Yeah, he plays a lot. He lives in this town. It's like 15 minutes out of here. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you for that. The real knowledge and the deep dive into making that Spotify playlist of my dad's stuff, and just thanks for getting this. You do something like this, and it's not everyone gets it. You know what I mean? So it is appreciated.
Yeah,
you know
consider yourself God.
All right, man.
I've been working hard for like 10 or 15 years, Adam, to not bug you too much.
Oh, come on. Well, you got my number, so
now
you can text me. You could, text me.
We'll be like Les McCann and you, Joe. We'll just talk every day for the next.
Go for it. Who's gonna mail the diaper though?
Yeah.
Whoever has to wear them first, I guess.
Oh man.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
I'm going to be just so you know, I'm going to stop the recording, but let me.
Yeah.
I'm